What's up, YouTube? I'm the Planet Rocks, and welcome to another playthrough of Our Life. Grown Up was what we played last week, and that was basically a fight between Lizzie and Cove. I gotta say, I really do like having Lizzie around. Sometimes she just makes it so bombastic. It's really great. Anyway, today we're gonna be playing Long Day, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. It was another scorching summer day, the kind where no sooner had you finished one cup of water, you were already filling it up again. Everyone else had something on, so that afternoon it was just you and Shiloh. This didn't happen much, especially since COVID arrived. Without Lizzie around, Shiloh looked to you for all the answers. It made you feel... pleased, frustrated, nothing really. Yeah, basically, kind of maybe frustrated. I would feel frustrated. He was always wanting to hear what you thought instead of giving his own opinion, and expected you to come up with the plans. It was hard work, especially for such a hot day. You drained yet another drink and frowned at the empty vessel. Your thirst was gone, but you still craved something icy cold and refreshing, something sweet, something like a popsicle, an ice cream cone, a popsicle. You wanted something fruity and brightly colored. There was nothing like that to be found at home. You knew that without needing to look. Your moms didn't keep sweets in the house. Outside, there were plenty of places where such goodies could be obtained, but they were shops and demanded payment in exchange for their products. You sighed. You voiced your predicament out loud. You asked Shiloh for help. Out loud. I want a popsicle. Shiloh, who had been draped over the sofa, perked up.
Yeah.
That sounds good. We don't have anything like that in the house, and I don't have any money. Oh, let me check if I have any. Here comes Shiloh, making it rain. Shiloh rummaged in his backpack and proudly produced an assortment of coins, plus one stray button. You set the button aside and counted the coins in neat piles. Just over $1. You announced this to Shiloh. He had almost certainly come to the same conclusion, but he'd been watching you expectantly. It's not enough. It's a start. I'm gonna go with it's a start. Shiloh beamed at you. We'll need to find some more. Okay. The two of you lifted couch cushions, stuck tiny hands down deep crevices in the sofa and under the furniture, and scoured the back of drawers. Most of what you found was useless or gross. Bent paper clips, fluffy wisps of dust or sandy crumbs, but every so often one of you would strike silver or bronze and add it to the growing pile of coins. Your mind wandered to the $20 bill tucked away in your room. It was enough for you and Shiloh to get whatever you wanted and more, but you didn't take it out. That was too special to hand over so freely. Besides, Shiloh would be curious about where it came from and might even mention your wealth to Lizzie. The exchange had been a secret. Dusty and disheveled from checking every room and squinting into every tiny nook, the two of you finished pooling your finds. Shiloh held his breath as you counted the coins once again. $2, 53 cents, and 2 buttons. You didn't know when the second button had decided to join the party, but you were too pleased with your successful haul to throw it out. Is that enough? You figured he knew the answer without looking to you for confirmation, but the thrill of your success and the reward that would follow canceled out any other feelings you might have had about that. Yeah. You could now afford something at the shops. Just one thing, but that was infinitely better than none. Shiloh clapped his hands. Yay! The two of you dashed outside. The promise of sugar buoyed you on to your destination where, breathless but happy, you stared at the overwhelming number of options. You knew what you wanted, but it wasn't just you who had contributed the funds to get the treat. He seemed to notice your pause. Aren't you getting a popsicle? Shiloh asked as though he was entirely separate from the decision rather than someone with a stake in the outcome. Do you mind? Shiloh cocked his head to the side. It was your idea. You should choose. You went ahead and got what you wanted originally. You tried to get something you both wanted anyway. Are you really sure it's okay? Yeah. Really? Really. Pleased, You bought the dessert you longed for. Sweet success. Finally, the reward for all your hard work was in your hands. You sucked on the fruity popsicle you'd bought. The icy treat cooled you down perfectly, and the zesty flavor was refreshing. You held it out to Shiloh so he could take a turn. He shook his head.
You can finish it.
He didn't want any? After everything he did to help get it? That was weird. But you accepted the offer. There was no point arguing. It was already melting under the rays of the sweltering summer sun. You eagerly tucked back in. The cold, sugary treat quenched you in ways that the water just couldn't reach. The two of you began to head back home as you ate. You were glad, too, to get the treat all to yourself. Only half wouldn't have been nearly as good. Even so, you couldn't help but wonder what Shiloh was thinking. You walked side by side on the shore in silence, but your thoughts kept drifting to the boy beside you. Why didn't he speak up for himself? It was almost as if Shiloh didn't know how to say what he felt, or was too afraid to. You figured that was his problem and didn't care. Are you scared of me? You thought that was kind of sad. Yeah. Not being able to talk to people isn't fun. And you didn't want to be the kind of person people were scared to tell their honest opinion to. You considered asking Shiloh about it, but if he couldn't give an opinion on something like ice cream, then he wasn't going to open up about this. You hoped for the best. Maybe you were wrong, or if you were right, maybe he'd feel better about it soon. Shiloh made you unsure about setting a label on the experience of spending the afternoon with just him. There had been good times and there had been confusing ones. You were positive of one thing, at least. The treat was delicious, and that was nice. The sun was low on the horizon as you returned to your neighborhood. There you spotted two familiar figures up ahead, Lizzie and Cove. You opened your mouth to make your presence known to them just as you saw the tears on Cove's face. You walked straight over, Shiloh at your heels. Once there, you carefully asked about what happened. Without a time machine, the only way you were going to find out was by asking the witnesses. Lizzie might have done something, but she could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or even come to Cove's aid. You wanted to hear the story. Cove, what happened? Jamie, I got yelled at. Oh. He took a deep, steadying breath. Getting yelled at when you're that young is honestly terrifying. And that happened to me, and I did break down plenty of times crying over something like that. Some grandparents got mad at me.
Aww.
Sorry. Lizzie jerked her head in the direction of a nearby house. Your heart sunk. You knew exactly what had happened. Every year the same mean old couple rented out that condo for the summer. You, Lizzie, and Shiloh knew to stay away from them, but Cove couldn't have. They're like that with everyone. Even your mom struggled to find anything nice to say about them, but the elderly pair particularly took offense to kids. It didn't matter if they were really nice, like Cove. Yeah, Lizzie said. Lizzie drew herself up at that. She looked pointedly in your direction. I was helping. That's cool. Is there anything I can do? No, I'm just gonna stay away. Or you could teach them a lesson. There was a devilish glint in her eyes. What? You should ding-dong ditch them. Go ring the doorbell and run. It'll be great, 'cause they're so slow. They'll never catch you. That's dumb. I don't want to go near them ever again.
You're just saying that because you're a chicken.
Cove glared, but didn't take the bait. Lizzie turned to you. You're not a chicken, are you? I'll do it. Yeah, cluck cluck. I mean... would I? Yeah, actually, I was a kid. Yeah, I would have done that. You took a deep breath and nodded. Lizzie squealed with delight. We'll go hide. Run as soon as you hit the bell. Good luck. Lizzie and Shiloh ran across the road to take shelter in the bushes. Even once they'd settled down, you could make out two child-sized shapes staring from between the leaves. You knew where to look for them, though. and so you told yourself that the grouchy old people wouldn't spot it. Cove sighed, his gaze flicking to the house and then back to you. Be careful. It'll be okay. He gave the door and you one last look before joining Lizzie and Shiloh in their hideaway. The weight of 3 pairs of eyes on your back was heavier than anything you'd carried before as you approached the door. You hesitated as you reached for the doorbell. Then you rung it. You slapped the buzzer and ran. Blood thumped against your eardrums with every step. Would you make it in time? Approaching the hiding spot, you knew that there wasn't time to go around the bushes as the others had done. You took a shortcut, leaping over them. Or to be more accurate, crashing into the tops of the bushes and then falling over to the side. Cove quietly hissed as you unwittingly collided into him, but by the way his arms were out, it seemed he had intentionally tried to cushion your landing. Shh! Lizzie put a finger to her lips and nodded at the house. You disentangled your limbs from Cove's and spun around to see the old man framed in the doorway, peering back and forth suspiciously. You covered your mouth with your hands, but it wasn't enough to stifle your giggles. Maybe he spotted one of you, or maybe it was the leaves you displaced while jumping, but he locked eyes with the bush and stormed over in your direction. Shiloh gasped and looked to Lizzie. Run! Your sister did not hesitate to take her own advice, neither did Shiloh. You got up, but seeing Cove struggling to extract himself and stand up, with just the one fully functional arm, you gave him a hand up before taking off after the others. The old man's hollers propelled you all from the street to the sanctity of the hill. Only once you were safe did you notice the stitch in your chest and the ache of your legs. You flopped down, the blades of grass tickling your face. Lizzie, who had taken the lead in the end, was already lazing on the ground. The 4 of you took a moment to catch your breath and enjoy the feeling of cool grass against your skin.
Cove.
Hey, Cove. Cove lifted his head. I told you they were mean grandparents around here. Cove rolled his eyes, then decided this wasn't dismissive enough and rolled his whole body away from your sister. Lizzie chose to ignore his response and started chatting to Shiloh, who eagerly joined in the conversation. In the back of your mind, you knew you'd be second fiddle again to Shiloh once Lizzie came around. It always went like that. And it was fine, you thought. Shiloh could prefer Lizzie as much as he wanted to. There were other things to attend to anyway. You wriggled closer to Cove. He had calmed down for the most part and was inspecting a flower. His fingers pinched the stem and tilted the white petals towards him. That's a poppy. Cove glanced at you in acknowledgement, then back to the flower. And the type of poppies on this hill have the name white linen poppy, Mom told me. He quirked a smile. That's funny. He ran a finger around the edge of the petals. It doesn't feel like cloth. You'd need a lot of them to make anything. He nodded and released the delicate plant, evaluation complete. This is my favorite kind of flower, but I didn't know what it was called. Thanks. Oh wow, okay. Type your own answer. Nah. Peonies are pretty, hibiscus are the best. It's mine too. I like roses. That's actually true, roses are my favorite, so I'm gonna go with that. They smell really nice. Those are fancy flowers, you'd look good with them. Thanks. You moved onto your back with a small smile and looked at the darkening sky. The blanket of clouds reminded you of a thick throat you curled under on cold rainy days. You wondered if the clouds would be as soft. They lazily floated on by, splitting from each other, merging and morphing into new shapes. You saw a dolphin, saw a car, you saw an alpaca, saw a smiling. I'm going to say you saw a dolphin. You saw a dolphin leaping through the sky. You nudged Cove and pointed to it. Look, a dolphin. Cove joined you in gazing skywards. Yeah, I see it. Really? No, but I like dolphins. Hey. He chuckled at your reaction. All the sun's light faded from the sky and the moon rose higher. Lizzie got to her feet, dusting strands of grass from her bare legs, and surveyed her surroundings. The ocean, visible from the crest of the hill, beckoned with every sweep of the tide. Let's go to the beach. There was no argument from the other two. Shiloh was still Shiloh, and Cove would never say no to going to the shore. He was a child of the sea. You... Yeah. So you eagerly joined the others in descending the hill down to the water. You stepped onto the sand for the second time that day, but it felt different at night. The beach was nearly quiet at this hour. Abandoned sandcastles and footsteps in the sand, too big to belong to any of you, were the only indication of how busy it had been only hours earlier. The four of you kicked shoes off and removed socks and walked along the water's edge. The waves tickled your feet. I wonder what would happen if you tried to take a bath in the ocean with shampoo and everything. That would be bad for the fish.
Jeez.
I didn't say anyone would do it. Jeez, you don't have to be serious about everything. You're the one who asked what would happen. That is what would happen. It hurt the fishes. I like bubble baths at home. They're a lot of fun. Thanks, Shiloh. Me too. Bubble baths are luxurious. You've never heard Lizzie use that word before. Mommy loves to have bubbles in her bath. She'll turn the lights off and have candles. I'm gonna do that next time. Hey, when's your mom coming to pick you up anyway? Not for a while. She's busy. What about your dad? How come you never talk about him? Nobody does. Don't you know you're not supposed to ask something like that? Why would somebody want to talk about something they never talk about? You kept your eyes on the ground, watching your toes get swallowed up by waves. Even if Shiloh never seemed upset when this topic came up, it made you feel awkward just for having both of your moms. It's okay. I'm like Lizzie and Jamie. I don't have a dad. But I don't have two moms, I just have one. She's really great. Oh, sorry. I only have one now, too. My mom isn't here. She's back home. It's just my dad with me.
Sorry.
Oh. I never had a dad or anything, so I don't feel bad. It's really sad that your mom is gone. Cove nodded. You joked about Shiloh's mom getting together with Cove's dad, okay? Yeah. Cove couldn't muster a response. You don't think he truly disagreed, though. The silence broke with a splash as Lizzie kicked in your direction. Cold water and sodden sand splattered against your legs. Lizzie giggled, foot still outstretched from the kick. Cove joined in, striking the incoming waves to make a splash of his own. Shiloh scurried out of Cove's spray zone with a grin. You made a run for it, you retaliated. You retaliated. You used your foot to smack the water pooling around you, sending an arc of sea foam flying back onto your sister. You laughed as she spluttered, some of the salty seawater having landed in her mouth. She spat it out. Yuck! Lizzie chased you, intent on revenge. You dashed up and down the coast, taking it in turns to be the predator and the prey, as well as joining forces to take down Shiloh or Cove. Alliances were silently forged or wordlessly broken. Everything was fair game in war. Shiloh's brief exclamation was drowned out by the biggest splash yet, caused by him falling face first onto the ground. That would have been bad enough without the wave that followed, cascading over his prone body. Shiloh sat up, shaking his head like a dog coming in from the rain, as you all hurried over to check on him. His hair was plastered to his head, and his soaked clothes clung. If there was any part of him that was still dry, you couldn't see it. That was crazy. Are you okay? Yeah, my foot got stuck and I fell over. Way to go, Shiloh, you dumbo. Shiloh didn't take your outstretched hand. After a moment, you dropped it. Lizzie was too busy snickering to notice and held her hand out to Shiloh, too. He reached over and took it. Wow. Slowly, he started to pull himself from the ground. Then he slipped on the slick sand, dragging him and Lizzie down in just in time for another wave to hit. The water rolled over them.
Sorry.
What were the odds of that happening twice in a row? You thought they must be low, but there's no way Shiloh would do something like that on purpose, then pretend it was an accident, especially not to Lizzie. Even if your relationship with Shiloh felt unclear, he did at least like her a lot. Lizzie was his favorite, right? Smiling boldly, Lizzie extracted herself from the ground and wiped a streak of sand from her cheek. She didn't intend to let this embarrass her. Shiloh got up again as well, this time without incident. He still looked like a drowned puppy, but that didn't stop Cove laughing at the two of them. With that, it was time to call it a day. The four of you made the journey back home, leaving a trail of wet footsteps and sand in your wake. Damp clothes may have weighed down some of the group, but your spirits were high. Your arms swung side to side as a cool breeze flowed past. Your moms were outside chatting to Cove's dad. "We're back!" Your moms' faces fell as they took in the state you all were in, ranging from messy to soaked.
No.
"Elizabeth, is that all that you have to say for yourself? You brought half the beach back with you?" "They certainly did. What's Marigold going to do when she comes to get Shiloh? Is that how you want him to be for the long drive home, cold and filthy?" Lizzie's expression turned sulky over the scolding. Being the oldest could be fun, but it also meant she was the first to get in trouble when something went wrong. Mr. Holden, on the other hand, chuckled as he ruffled Cove's matted hair. "You've been out making memories, bucko? I'm glad you had a good time with your friends." Cove used his slightly moist cast arm to push his dad off. Mr. Holden's eyes widened when he noticed even that had gotten wet. Now he was worried too. "I think they could have found a less risky way to spend time and had just as much fun." "That might be right, kids. What can we do? What can you do? Come on, Cove, let's go get you cleaned up and dried off. We wouldn't want that cast to have to be reset." Cove winced at the thought.
Okay.
"That boy." Mr. Holden casually bent down and plucked Cove up off the ground, ultimately holding Cove against his chest. Sand was already transferring from Cove onto him, but that didn't seem to bother Mr. Holden. Cove protested being carried, but only got a reassuring pat on the back for his trouble.
Take care.
"Good night, Cove. Thank you for the talk, Cliff." Night, Donovan family, and Shiloh too. Resigned to his fate, Cove twisted his body in his dad's arms in order to turn around and wave goodbye. Smiling, he returned to Tiny Wave of your own.
Fine.
"Well, we'd better do what we can to fix you guys up too. Come on, everybody inside. I want you to march straight to the downstairs bathroom."
Ugh.
"Yes, Mom." "Okay, Lizzie's mom. Don't worry about stopping to wipe your feet on the mat this time. That won't do much good tonight." Sitting on an old beach towel your mommy had found, you waited in the hall until you were less sandy. You weren't allowed to go to your room or walk around the house. But you did get to eat a sandwich for dinner there. It felt like an indoor picnic. It had been decided that Shiloh would wash first and borrow some of your clothes. He was already finished and packed away in his mom's car. Miss Fields had come to collect him a little while ago. It was a bit of a funny experience seeing him without that hat on for once. Lizzie, being much more soaked than you, got to go in the tub next. It wasn't a bubble bath as she had hoped. This was no fun allowed cleanup session. At least that's what she claimed. Not much longer and it would be your turn. When the bath was done, you'd have to go right to bed. After a day like this, though, you were glad there weren't going to be any further events. Drifting off to sleep sounded like a great idea. Alrighty, guys. That was the completion of Long Day. Thank you so much for joining me during this playthrough of Our Life. I am the Planet Rocks. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications, and do like this video. You can also follow me on Twitter, and you can also like my page on Facebook. Both are called The Planet Rocks. I will be uploading another video next week at around the same time. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm the Planet Rocks, and I'll see you next week.